Hi, this is Paul at School Bus Talk. On this episode, we're going to review a Corvette versus school bus crash in Massachusetts.
I heard a loud engine rev and then followed by a big boom. So I ran downstairs, saw what had happened. So I called 911 and came out. Was really encouraged to see how many people stopped to help.
That was the statement of a bystander to this bus crash that happened in Grafton, Massachusetts on Tuesday, January 14th, 2025. I'm calling him a ear witness because he heard but did not see the crash. Let's remember what Mr. Herring said because it will become important later in the video. The facts of the crash are at about 7 a.m., a school bus collided with a Corvette sports car just south of the intersection of Upton Street, also known as Route 140, and Browns Road. Here's a Google map image of the crash site. Initial reports are that the school bus was southbound on Upton Street. The Corvette was northbound and crossed into the path of the bus, striking the Corvette T-bone on the right side of the car. The car then spun around and ended up in the ditch on the west side of Upton Street. The school bus, which is a Type 1 conventional, remained in the southbound lane, skidded forward to a stop, and remained upright. The bus had 14 students on board and was going to the Blackstone Valley High School. The bus has severe damage to the forward control unit, and it looks like the front axle and engine are torn away. The Corvette is a complete wreck. Please note the fiberglass car body is shredded. You can clearly see that the car was center punched on its right side. Let's review the Google street level images of the crash site. Here is Upton Street looking north, and here is Upton Street looking south. The area is rural residential neighborhood with large lot subdivision. The topography is gently rolling hills with woods. It appears that the tree canopy covers much of the roadway. The speed limit is 40 miles per hour or 64 kilometers per hour. Here is the speed zone sign just north of Browns Road intersection, about 300 feet from the crash site. The crash scene photos indicate the weather was fair. It was chilly in eastern Massachusetts on January 14th, 2025. Weather data from Worcester, Massachusetts, which is about 8 road miles from the crash site, shows that it was freezing cold, 24 degrees Fahrenheit at 7 a.m. or -4 degrees Celsius. At the time of the crash, it was twilight. Here is the astronomy data from Worcester, Massachusetts on January 14th. Sunrise was at 7:15 a.m. So when the crash happened, it must have been fairly dark, especially with the overhanging trees and woods in the area. Crash scene photos seem to indicate that the roadway is well drained with good ditches. It doesn't look like there is any black ice in the traveled way. The photos do show that the road may have been covered with frost. Sources for this video are listed in the description. None of the students on the bus were hurt. The bus driver was taken to the hospital with minor injuries, treated and released. The driver of the Corvette didn't do so well in the crash. The sports car driver had to be extricated from the wreckage and taken to the hospital with serious injuries. There is no updated information about this victim. My heart goes out to all the victims of this bus crash. It must have been a tremendous shock when the bus collided with the sports car, kids and backpacks flying all over the inside of the school bus. I'm relieved that nobody was seriously hurt on the school bus. It sounds like neighbors and bystanders were quickly on the scene and helped the kids to evacuate the bus. Counselors were made available to the school kids to help process this trauma. The last report about this crash is that it's still under investigation. What can we conclude from this school bus crash? First, I want to say what a terrific job the bus driver did. He or she had no time to react before the collision. It is fortunate the bus remained upright and didn't overturn. The driver must have been really shook up. Second, the Corvette driver is fortunate that the bus T-boned the right side of the car. Surely, if the bus had struck the left side of the car, he or she would not have survived the collision. Before I make final conclusions, let's take a look at some crash scene video that's on the internet. Please hang with me because there's something very interesting at the end of this video. The video shows how torn up the Corvette is. The front of the bus is badly damaged. You'll see that the hood of the bus became detached from the forward control unit. And look at the damage to the Corvette. This driver is lucky to survive. But what I want to show you is coming up on the end of this video. It's going to be in the lower right-hand corner. You can see the skid marks, and it appears to be the skid marks of the Corvette. And how do they veer to the left, right into the impact point between the bus and the car? I'm speculating that this skid mark was made by the Corvette and shows how the car swerved into the northbound lane directly in the way of the bus. Let's recall what the ear witness said.
I heard a loud engine rev and then followed by a big boom.
A engine revving is not what I'd expect to hear before the big bang of a collision. I'd expect to hear brakes squealing if the car driver was trying to stop. Based on the skid marks and the ear witness statement, I speculate the Corvette driver was speeding or made a reckless driving movement right before he or she turned into the path of the bus. The Corvette driver is 100% responsible for this crash. The crash also illustrates an important defensive driving principle called R.A.C, or recognition, action, collision. R.A.C is a spatial theory of zones around a vehicle, or sometimes we call them safety circles. The first zone is the driver sees and or recognizes a hazard. The second zone, the driver takes action to avoid the hazard. And the third zone is the point of no return. Once the driver and the vehicle enter this zone, there is going to be a collision. It appears to me that the bus driver had no time to recognize and act before the reckless Corvette driver collided with the school bus. The crash went instantly into the collision zone. There was no time or space to avoid the hazard before the collision. We're lucky there were no kids hurt. And please comment on this crash if you have any thoughts. That wraps up this episode of School Bus Talk. Remember, safety is essential.